Hello and welcome to Take It to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. I'm your host, JP John Paz from the Two Man Power Trip. Of course, joining me is the star of the show, the former WWE World Tag Team Champion, one of the greatest trainers ever in the history of the business, the Doctor of Desire, Dr. Tom Prichard. Dr. Tom, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, John. There's a lot of things going on that we were just talking about, and a lot of things going on. I know everybody around the wrestling world is talking about. So it's an interesting time, I think, to be a wrestling fan, and also an interesting time just to be in professional wrestling. And my goodness, um, will it ever end? Will it ever be just one guy that everybody points to and says, that's the guy I got to beat? And I'm wondering because. It happened in boxing when you had all these other champions, these other organizations coming out and wanting to claim just one champion and one guy to beat. So I wonder if wrestling will ever get to that. It used to be there was a world champion in every town before television came along, but kind of looks like almost the same thing is taken over again. Ibsen, good to
Ibsen,
see you.
hello.
And
Barbara,
Barbara.
hello.
Barbara's not late this week, John.
Yes,
That's
she's
good.
on time. Yep. Jason, hello, Jason.
Awesome.
Barbara says, I'd say Dr. Tom is the one guy everyone wants to be, not
I
be,
don't know
but
if you'd want
be.
to have my
Yeah.
life or not, but that's not so bad.
But you make a
So
good point because the way it was framed with the WWE draft, so Roman Reigns is on SmackDown. He's the number one pick. Solo and Paul Heyman go with him. Then you have on Raw, you have Cody Rhodes, you have Seth Rollins, but they don't have a champion. So Triple H then says, okay, we're going to create a world heavyweight title belt specifically for Raw. But the way he said it was basically like, okay, Roman is the two champions. He's the undisputed champion, basically the Universal champion and the WWE champion. This belt here is the world champion. So I don't know. It's confusing. So there's three champions. Roman Reigns is two champions. The other one is somebody else.
well, there's only one champion with two belts, and I'll call them belts because that's what they
Yes.
are. Johnny from Puerto Rico, very nice. Glad to see somebody from PR is listening tonight too.
Yes.
But I think once you put Roman Reigns on SmackDown and you say you're going to have a world champion, there's a dispute right there. Who is the real champion? Is the universe bigger than the world? I don't know. I think Roman has done a great job representing WWE as the champion, but I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work either. I really don't. I'm going to be interested to see and watch how it all comes about because I don't know how you do it. I really don't, and it's going to be interesting. I think everybody's got their ideas on how it's going to work, but I think it's going to be a very interesting time, as I said, to be a professional wrestling fan and a sports entertainment fan at that too.
Hello, Mike. Hello, Dave. Could Dr. Tom come out of retirement and work an angle with Bruce? That would draw some serious money. Bruce Prichard, of course, your brother refers
Well, of
to.
course, Barbara, I
Yeah.
appreciate the sentiment, but no, I could not come out of retirement. In fact, I haven't officially retired, but I don't think that would, that might draw just a couple people who wanted to see it. But yeah, you'd buy a ticket, right, John?
Yes.
Sure, you would.
Yes, love that. Miguel, hi, first time listener from San Juan, Puerto Rico.
So we
Wow,
have a
another
couple
Puerto
people,
Rico.
yeah, a
Yeah.
couple people from PR.
Yep.
That's very nice. We had a kid come and train with us from Puerto Rico last year, or 2 years ago it was, and Javier. Uh, so so very nice. Glad you're on with us, guys.
Very interesting because Bad Bunny, obviously from Puerto Rico, Damian Priest is Puerto Rican. They're having a big street fight at the Backlash pay per view coming up. So very interesting. All the Puerto Rican fans here are kind of making themselves known right now. I love it.
When is Backlash?
Saturday, 8 p.m., the 6th of May.
Okay, well then it's coming up. It'll be next Saturday, I believe.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, I'll make you see. Bad Bunny has been pretty impressive too in
I know.
everything he's done. So,
Shocking. Yep.
and how could you not? Well, I don't know if it's shocking or not because what is it, Logan Paul?
Yeah, but Logan Paul's like a legit athlete. Bad Bunny's just a singer. You know what I mean?
Well, now is he just a singer, or
Maybe
he
not.
might be? He's obviously very athletic. He's
Yeah.
obviously got
Yeah.
got a
He's
love
got
for
it.
the business. So
Yep.
good for
Yep.
him.
He's got it.
Yeah.
He's been very impressive, Bad Bunny. I just didn't know because he's so popular. I mean, he's like the most known singer in the world right now. So
Yeah, everywhere you go, and I check in stores and places like that, and you see uh, pictures of him on cover. There's still magazines out there too, and his pictures on a lot of magazines and on the newsstand. So yeah, it's good when you get something like that, and then it's good to see when guys like that want to spread the word about wrestling and get other people interested. It's kind of like Billy Corgan and the Smashing Pumpkins. They just did a great tour of Australia,
yep.
2 weeks, and same thing. Everywhere you turn, it seems like Billy Corgan has his name on things too. So the NWA is pulling some rabbits out of their hat too. It's going to be interesting to watch.
Mexico, Australia, yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Oh, the
Re-
Dr. X gimmick has never left.
yes,
They
Rex
still
Bradley
use it.
says bring back Doctor X.
Awesome. I'll see if he's busy. See if he make a house call.
He's got a follow up. I've seen Doctor X versus The Rock. It was a solid match. Look at that.
Well, how about that? Yeah, it was a match it was supposed to be, and Dr. X knew his role. He knew what prescription to fill.
Now, did Doctor X not want a job to a rookie on TV there? Why Doctor X and why not Doctor Tom?
Because I don't think Dr. Tom carried as much weight as Dr. X. They didn't
Wow.
want. They
Okay.
didn't want. They didn't want Dr. Tom. They wanted Dr. X.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, it wasn't my choice.
Dave says, Dr. Tom, will you be in the Toronto area soon for any events?
Not anytime soon, but I have actually. It's just funny you should ask that because I do have a friend uh, up around Toronto, and the last time I talked to him, gosh, 3 weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. Time is really, I have lost all track of time. But they're thinking about running again, and you never know.
Well, any relation to the Tunnies?
No, no relation to the
No.
tennis whatsoever.
Uh-oh, here we go. Bo, the king of Kingsport himself. Hey, Doc, did you find your way to Alcoa?
I can find my way to Alcoa with my eyes closed and my hands tied behind my back. Yes, I did. It's a very wonderful trip, by the way.
Jason said the WWE stock closed at $108.14, still on the climb. Wow, holy crap.
That's
Damn.
awesome. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
So not only are they worth 9.3 billion, it looks like 9.3 billion and on the rise. Holy crap.
Well, yeah, WWE's on a roll, so more power to them. And I hope the world title thing comes out, and I hope that whoever gets the championship, whether it's Seth or my gosh, who else could hold it? Cody. I really don't think, and I've read this too, but I also believe it. I just don't think it would be the appropriate thing to do for Cody right now. I think what they got going on with him is just right. And that the shot I saw him punch Brock right in the nose the other night. I saw a clip of it and I thought it was great. Stuff like that is missing, and it takes stuff like that from people who have that passion like Cody does, and people know it's real. Cody believes it with all his heart, and if you saw the American Dream documentary and biography, you can tell both Cody, Dustin, all his kids, they had the passion. They knew that Dream had the passion. So I don't know though. It's going to be it's going to be an interesting summer. I think.
Yes. A lot of big shows coming up for the summer. Mike wants to know, do you think Virgil or Paul Roma will ever go into the Hall of Fame? We always have a Hall of Fame question.
Well, I was going to say anything is possible. You never know. Never say never. I've learned that a long time ago.
I feel like Paul Roma before Virgil, to me anyway, would probably.
Well, here you go. I think Virgil before Paul Roma.
Why?
I tell you why. Because he was with the $1 Million Man for so long, and he was whether he was doing something prominent or not, he was a prominent figure wherever the $1 Million Man went. So and Roma, which I met Paul in passing a couple times. Always been nice, pleasant, cordial, but I think Virgil would probably get him before Paul.
Rick is saying Hunter misspoke Monday night, and he said Backlash was March 6th, not May 6th. Interesting. He kind of was screwing up a few times with some of the things. Maybe he's got too much on his plate right now.
Well, yeah, that happens, and I think yeah, Triple H has a lot on his plate, and I think that's a simple mistake, honest mistake, and I think everybody probably figured it out that March had already passed, and we were on May, so it's understandable. He does have a lot going on. He's trying to run things, and he does have a lot to look out for. So March 6th, simple, easy slip of the tongue.
Been very impressed by the women in NXT. Does Dr. Tom also train women in his wrestling school? Yes, he does.
I certainly do. Yes, Kenzie Page, as a matter of fact, came out of JPWA. We also have another lady who will be at SmackDown in Knoxville coming up next week. Katie, and she's man. We've been very fortunate. Ivy Nile also came out of JPWA. So yeah, we do train women in NXT, and I've been very impressed with the women as well. It's certainly come a long way from the Moolah days. I will say that.
Yes, very true. What's interesting? I was going through some old pictures. I found had literally a Polaroid from has to be like 1980. My dad met Fabulous Moolah. Then I went and I looked at about 20 years ago, and I found my Polaroid with the Fabulous Moolah. So interesting. I was like, wow, look at
Now
this.
wait a minute, Polaroid. Are you talking about Polaroids, or are you talking about
Yeah,
a
Polaroid? Yeah, yep.
Because we used to use Polaroids in. Okay, you mean a regular Polaroid at the matches? Okay.
Yes.
Never mind.
But I thought that was so weird. I was like, wow, he met Fabulous Moolah in 1980. So, Jesus Christ.
Well, she's been around since 19.
Well, I know, but I didn't know he was that big of a fan. He's meeting all these wrestlers. But he used to hang out with Pedro Morales sometimes. So he.
Well, I think you'd probably find a few things your father did a little odd.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. Shane McMahon would say the same thing about his dad.
I think he has a right to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dan Davidson, hello there, gentlemen. All the shows on here are true-hearted, amazing blessings. You all talking about the old school wrestling. I think he means and new school wrestling because I love wrestling a lot. I guess Dan is a huge wrestling fan.
Well, Dan, I got to tell you, the old school wrestling is a lot different than the new school, but it was presented differently and it was looked at differently, and people some enjoy it, some don't, and I really like. Well, not necessarily do I like it, but it's my guilty pleasure when I read comments after a internet story, and I'll read something. I read something about Top Dollar the other day, who said his rapping was God sent, or Shinji Nakamura said, you must have a God. Your way of writing words were God sent, or something like that along those lines. And I'm thinking Ken Nakamura was just ribbing him, but he really believes it. So, and everybody else got on the comments, and he had like 60 comments saying this guy's delusional. So, I don't know, man. It's a different way of looking at things these days. That's for sure.
Now, Ibsen's got an interesting question here. He said he saw today a promo for SummerSlam 93, obviously the match between the Heavenly Bodies and the Steiner brothers. Del Rey had a promo that said, "Me and my cousin will beat the two brothers." Wow, I didn't know in gimmick that you guys were cousins. Was that true? Were you guys supposed to be cousins, the Heavenly Bodies?
Yeah, he was. He was my cousin from Del Rey, Florida. That's where Jimmy Del Rey came from. Yeah, so we were supposed to be cousins. Yes.
Which is awesome that Stan Lane is from Delray Beach, Miami.
How about that?
Delray Beach, Florida. So that's funny, Jimmy Del Rey, and a little homage there, a little tip of the cap to Stan Lane.
Of Of course,
Loved it.
that's the way it was done back then. I'm sorry it's
Yeah.
not done that way today because those are those little what do you call them? Easter eggs you could find.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and hear
Yes.
about the story behind the story.
Did Stan ever say like, "Come on, Jimmy Del Rey," like, or did he like that he was Jimmy Del Rey?
No, I think Stan had just had enough. Honest to goodness, Stan was great, and I got along great with Stan. But I think at that point in his life, in his career, he had already pioneered territories. He'd been one part of the fabulous ones with Steve Kerr, they did incredible business. They were a huge success in the Tennessee territory and instrumental, in a lot of that uprising back then in the early '80s, and then going on with the Midnight Express with Bobby and Jim, and now Smoky Mountain was Smoky Mountain, and it was another pioneering attempt to go out and try and replant the seeds and get the fans interested again, and we had to start from scratch pretty much, and it was he was coming from Charlotte, and good 3.5 4 hours away, and then you get here, and it was a far cry from what the Crockett territory was doing back then. But we were starting out, and plus business had changed, the models had changed, and I think Standard just said, good luck, Jimmy, and that was it. Of course, shortly after that, he went to WWF at that time and became a stand-up interviewer, and he got in that part too. Plus, he also did some commentary on boat races. So I think Stan was at that point in his life where he'd been there, done that, and he wasn't ready to go through the ringer again. And I really can't blame him. I look back on it, I don't blame Stan one bit.
Jason saying Vince didn't build a multi-billion-dollar company by dumb luck. That is true.
No, he did not. No, he was very calculating what he did, and obviously his hard work is paying off.
Scorch is saying now that WWE has been sold, it's possible that some of the guys from the 60-person concussion lawsuit might now get into the Hall of Fame, guys like Demolition.
Well, no, well, Demolition deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. They really do. But you never know. I mean, they've been mad at people before. They were mad at Medusa, but she's in the Hall of Fame. They're mad at it. Everybody gets mad at you once or twice. In some people's case, 4 or 5 times, and I guess you can still be forgiven or looked at in a different light after years go by. I mean, time, uh, in some instances, heals all, but not everything. But I still think Demolition's two guys I definitely believe deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
Maybe the
Yeah,
best tag team in WWE history. Yeah, it's nuts that they're not in.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Eric Tate. Hi, Tom. How are you tonight?
I am great tonight, Eric. Couldn't be better.
Barbara, where was Cloudy from? Was that ever
Woo!
mentioned?
Well, Cloudy was a friend of Chris Candido, and his name was Jimmy Shoulders. Nice guy. But if you couldn't see that was an attempt to just bury us and put the tombstone on us, I don't know what it was, and it was a disaster.
I was just talking to Eric Watts, and he was saying Skip and Zip, Bar and Billy. He just said like when you put the names together, Travis and whatever, the TTs with him in the
Yeah,
Techno Team 2000. He said whenever you do that, it's just so corny, and
and
it's just not going to
horrible.
work. Yeah, it's not going to work.
Horrible. It was rotten, and we knew it, and it was. But again, if you know that, if you don't speak up, it's just going to continue. And at that time, I pretty much given up and said, I'm not fighting over this. It's a disaster, and it's not going to get any better. So
Oof, crazy names.
Yeah.
Good question here from Pillman Eyes with an awesome picture of Brian Pillman. Did you ever work with the Beverly Brothers, Mike Enos and Wayne Bloom? They almost killed some enhancement guys with their finisher, the Shaker Heights Spike. Man, that finish was awesome.
Uh,
Dangerous as hell, but awesome.
yeah, no, we never had the opportunity to work with the Beverly Brothers, but I think both those guys were pretty damn good workers, and they look good. They look the part. I mean, they look like professional athletes and wrestlers, and you could believe them, but never had the opportunity.
That would have been great. Beverly Brothers versus the Heavenly Bodies. I know it's heel versus heel probably, but that would have been awesome.
Yeah, we would have had a good match, I think.
Man, ooh, that was definitely a good one. Barbara's got a question. I don't believe you'll ever see another wrestler like Ox Baker. He started a riot in Cleveland. Will that ever happen again?
I don't know if you have the atmosphere or ambiance because when you go to a WWE show, it's like going to what the circus was. And I loved going to see the circus. It was always an event. You knew something spectacular was going to happen. And WWE is all about putting smiles on people's faces. AEW is about whatever they're about. And I don't know what that platform uh, category falls into, but the ambiance isn't there. Ox Baker had the look, and he had some gravitas because two people he'd been in the ring with died shortly after that, and they put it on Ox. So no, it was a different time, different place, different culture, different vibe altogether. People were actually wanting to hit the ring because they thought Ox was killing Ernie Ladd with those heart punches.
Yep.
And Johnny Powers came out. Now, you've seen the riot, haven't you?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's awesome because people were so worked up, whether they believed or not beforehand. They believed enough that Ox was about to kill Ernie Ladd again because Ox had Enrique Torres and Ray Gunkel. He hit them with the heart punch. I don't think he hit Enrique with the heart punch, but whatever it was, they attributed their death to Ox. And everywhere he went, I remember reading the names. I remember reading the fact that Ox has killed two people with his deadly heart punch. And same thing with Stasiak. Stan Stasiak used the heart punch, and it just it rang true back then because you could get by with it. And I remember Stasiak in Houston would have he brought out a chart, and he showed how when I hit you here with the palm of my hand, it short circuits your heart and it short circuits the neurons to your brain. And this is what happens when the blood vessels get cut off. And this is how it works, but it's completely legal. It's been studied by doctors, all this crap, man. So you could do it back then because people were a little less likely to look it up. And, it was all about how the guy sold it and put it over. And most of the guys back then understood when someone like Ox or Stasiak came in the territory, that was their role as the lead heel or one of the lead heels, the top heels in the territory. They were going to get over. You sold their move. You sold the heart punch. And that's how they drew money because, everybody who got hit with it just went down. And I don't think that's possible these days because people are too smart for their own good, I think.
Agree. Rio has a funny statement here. He always enjoyed watching the Body Donnas do jumping jacks.
Well,
Wow.
I'm glad somebody did, Rio, because I hated it. I hated watching body counters do jumping jacks. Travis and Troy, Techno Team 2000. Yeah.
That's Detroit. So it was
Yeah.
TTTTT 2000. It's like, holy crap. Yeah.
Oh,
Corny.
yeah.
And I know people say, "Oh, Watts, was he really that good?" But he was huge. Chad Fortune was huge. You know what I mean? These are tall, monstrous guys, and you turn them into Techno Team 2000.
You know what it was though, and I was just as guilty because they give you this gimmick and it's up to you to interpret it, and I just interpreted it as crap,
Yeah,
and so it was just I wasn't into it. My heart wasn't into it, and I think it showed. I think it. I just and I think Travis and Troy, Techno Team 2000,
yeah,
also,
knew it was crap.
yeah, it's crap.
Now we're not to the end yet, but Dave wants to know where he can get an autographed book of yours. We're not at the end. We'll repeat this at the end, but where can you get an autographed book?
Well, they can send $25 to my PayPal. This at Dr. Tom Prichard, or Dr. Tom Prichard at AOL.com on PayPal. Um, Hold on, I'm getting a very important text here while I do this
Oh,
podcast. Yeah, I
oh,
can't. It's top secret. Top secret.
it's probably Bruce talking about creative ideas.
No, it's not Bruce. It's pretty
Okay.
important. Pretty important fella.
I thought Bruce was going to say, "Hey, what do you think about this TL Hopper idea? I have a plumber, and I think Tony Anthony would be great to be this basically this plumber character." That's probably what Bruce is.
Yeah, that well, not you're not far off. So anyway, so I'll let him know. I'll call him after this. Very important phone call. Very important.
Yes,
Yeah, can't tell you who it is though. Top
nice.
secret. Anyway, so
Could it possibly be Stone Cold Steve Austin?
not a chance.
Oh, okay. I know you were buddies with him, but did you have
Of
a
course,
chance? Did you have a chance to watch Stone Cold Takes America, his new TV show?
I did not. But how was it? I've seen the commercials. It looks like it'd be pretty good. It looks like Steve would be one of the guy to do it.
Yeah, but they almost try to do too much in the episode. Like he's bowling, then he's driving on the sand dunes. Like they almost put too much in the episodes. Like he's trying to do so much. But basically, they went to his Instagram. They found all these people saying, "Do this, do that, do this," and he tries to accomplish whatever they're telling him to try, and he tries to do it. Sometimes he brings an expert. Sometimes he just tries to do it on his own. Sometimes he's bowling against old ladies. So it's an interesting show.
Well, yeah, I'll probably tape it or record it and then watch it later on. I don't have a lot of spare time these days.
And the wanted treasure or the A&E's most wanted treasures from before that, he was kind of the focus because they want the Stone Cold Smoking Skull belt. They don't know where
Well,
the original one is, but they want to find it.
now is Top Dollar on that one too?
No, Booker T has taken over the hosting duties.
Oh, they replaced Top Dollar too on that.
Yep.
Okay, that's too bad.
Very interesting because when I talked to Top Dollar right before he re-signed with WWE, he
Uh,
mentioned that he thought he had a contract with A&E for another season. I guess maybe not, unless he's coming back for a third season or something. But yeah, maybe not.
I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't think those contracts are that ironclad, and I don't know that
Right, if you get
after.
fired from WWE, isn't that
Yeah,
Nixon?
that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. It
yeah.
could have been that deal, So
I want to find the smoking skull belt. I used to love that belt.
did they find it?
No, that Steve only had a replica of it, so it's going to be like a continued search of they're going to.
Yeah, that was a good looking belt. So
They did find the
uh,
original Intercontinental belt. It was in Steve's attic, so he gave that on loan to WWE.
so they did. Okay, well, good
And
for
Dave
him.
Milliken, who you probably know very well, he had Stone Cold's original WrestleMania 14 knee brace signed by Steve Austin.
Very nice. Well, Dave does a good job. He really does.
Oh, he's the
So
best. Yeah, he's the man. Yeah.
yeah.
Question here from Ibsen about Steve Austin. Did Steve ask for pointers about wrestling holds when he started to get hot, 96, 97, or was it just with Jerry Briscoe?
He might have. Well, he didn't ask me, that's for sure. But Briscoe was in the fold, and I'm sure he asked Jerry uh, for a few pointers. A lot of guys did, and that's what Jerry was there for because he was the Briscoe was the real deal. Both he and Jack, and that's what one of Jerry's jobs was to help people out as a producer and agent and give you some pointers. So Jerry Jerry's the guy to go to if you want to know some really good stuff.
Just found out that Jerry Briscoe went to school with Bill Watts. Imagine those two in school together. Jesus. And
Woo!
Jack. And Jack,
Yeah,
those three. Oh my God.
yeah. Well, I mean, and all
Probably beat
three
up a
followed.
few people.
Yeah, they followed the same path. So I think they were in the same place or in the right place together, and it worked out fine for all of them. I think.
Burley Sullivan is saying Tarantino ripped off Ox Baker.
Well, now how so?
Yeah, I don't know. We're gonna have to get some clarification
Yeah,
on that.
Burley, give us what you mean. How Tarantino ripped off Fox?
Yeah, get some thumbs
Okay,
up there.
cool.
Ibsen says, in your opinion, what made Steve Austin quickly click with the fans? Realism with his fights, especially Bret Hart, who Steve thought in the documentary was the guy that kind of made him, meaning Bret Hart, or do you think it was his promos? So you think it was his wrestling, his realism, his promos? What do you think?
I think it was the authenticity. I think once Steve, and I know he's told this story before, but I remember it very clearly riding with Steve and Brian Lee, and we were talking about. I asked Brian what Brian would call himself Primetime Brian Lee, and I said,
Yes,
"Why are you Primetime Brian Lee?" He says, "You know, like Primetime Deion Sanders." I said, "No, I don't get it. Primetime Deion Sanders, I see, but you,
yes,
Primetime Brian Lee, I don't get." And then I looked at Steve and said, "Why are you stunning Steve Austin?" So once Steve understood that, he had the long blonde stringy hair and biker shorts and a red Ric Flair type robe, white boots, knee pads, he was looking for an identity. Once he found Stone Cold, once he was, that's why I tell people, you watch documentaries, you watch these things, and you get ideas. And Steve was watching the documentary with Richard Kaczynski, a serial killer, and his wife said, "Drink your tea before it turns stone cold." Before it turns stone cold, and it registered, it hit, and those are those moments that you go, "Aha!" And once that happened, because here's a guy, bald head, mustache, goatee, black trunks, black vest, black boots, as plain as you can get, black and white, most over superstar at that time in wrestling.
definitely. Yep.
What was it? It wasn't necessarily what he wore. It's how he came to the ring. It's what he did once he got in the ring. He wasn't playing a part. He was the part. He was Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's a beer drinking redneck from Texas who will kick your ass, stomp a mud hole in you, and walk it dry, and doesn't care who you are. He's a rattlesnake. He will bite you no matter who you are. He didn't trust anybody. It was authentic. It was real. And when that carries over uh, outside the ring, you're living it 24/7. And Steve was living it 24/7. His promos were authentic. His promos were real. He came from the heart. And that was at a time when Vince had already come on and said, "Listen, we're not going to insult your intelligence. This is what we are. We're sports entertainment." But why did it get so popular? It's because you had guys going out there being themselves with the volume turned up from DX to The Rock, Mankind, Stone Cold. Um, these were guys who, even when they came backstage, they might have turned it down, to 9, but it wasn't very far. They didn't have to look very far to crank it right up to 11. And that was what I think got Steve over. He was working with authentic guys like Bret Hart, who also believed in himself and believed he is the best there was, best there ever will be, and best there is, all that stuff. That wasn't just a tagline. That wasn't just a promo. That was coming from the heart. That's how they felt, and that's how you had to present it. But you had to have that authenticity and that gravitas to back it up. And I love the word gravitas because it's either you find it or you have it. And I know people can find it, but that comes with experience. We can talk about experience all day long, but we can't give it to you. You have to actually go out there and fail and try new stuff. And that's what Steve did. He went out as the ringmaster, and I think he knew, of course, he knew that wasn't the ticket. But once he started really concentrating, focusing on what he needs to do uh, to get over, and that's what got him over because he really paid attention to his craft and he got better and uh, was the best was one of the greatest, if not the greatest superstar of that era.
Bo has got a great question here, the King of Kingsport. Was your heart into it when they made you Cowboy Tommy Prichard in L.A.?
Well, that would be a big fat no. It wasn't. And but again, my first territory in Mike LaBelle, I thought he's the boss. Told me go get a cowboy hat, be a cowboy because I'm from Texas. Well, I wasn't a cowboy. I'm still not a cowboy. And I went to the Fresno airport, bought a cowboy hat. That's where it was at. And yeah, never was a cowboy.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Barbara saying Bruce likes the idea of a comeback. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Or is she saying Bruce lies? I'm not
lies
sure.
the idea. Well, Bruce probably likes the idea of a comeback.
I like that. Yeah, it's not
I
bad.
like Brother. I'd like to see Brother Love make a comeback.
Yeah, me too.
Sure.
Magazine Retriever. Pro wrestling is the only occupation I could think of where someone gets in an altercation outside the workplace and people wonder, was that a work or a shoot?
Well, and that's what you're supposed to wonder. I mean, all the stuff about CM Punk coming back and showing up at Raw, then he showed up at Impact. He showed up somewhere else, didn't he? Well, I thought it was
Where the hell
three.
else?
Okay. Well, no, he showed
Yeah,
up at Raw or
yeah.
somewhere else.
There was a
Yeah.
bunch. Yeah, yep, or a
Okay.
few. Yeah.
So and who knows what they're thinking? Who knows? I know this that more so in WWE, people look at business for business and they put the personal stuff aside for the most part, and it's. I think it's in the entertainment business sometimes. You know, people get in an altercation outside. I remember Joaquin Phoenix uh, when he was doing. Do you remember when he went on the tour a couple of years ago? As he was going to be a rapper.
Yes, that
Well,
was so weird. Yeah, I don't know what the hell he was doing. Yeah.
he was working because he came on David Letterman and he was doing the shtick, and Dave didn't know he was doing a shtick.
Oh, yes, and
So he
Dave
came,
was
yeah,
pissed. Yes.
and
Yeah.
yeah, he came back later on, in a suit and tie and cut his hair and all the stuff. He says, "Yeah, I was doing this mockumentary," and so in the entertainment business, Andy Kaufman, same thing. And not too many people can pull that off because they're not dedicated to what they have to do.
Yep.
And I think in the entertainment business, it takes balls to do it, and also takes people giving a damn. Because otherwise, why would you do it? But Joaquin Phoenix, he never broke character. He never let anybody in on it, just like Kaufman. So, but wrestling is a great place to do that, and it was a lot of fun back when kayfabe was still alive too.
Dan says, bro, Dr. Tom, were you able to wrestle Dr. Death Steve Williams?
Yes, I wrestled Doc a couple times in house shows in Louisiana. What a great guy too. Could have killed me, should have killed me, but he gave me some stuff in the match, and he understood. And I think I worked with him 3 times in Louisiana on house shows, and was always a pro. Great guy.
Love that.
Yeah.
But going back to your texting, Barbara said Triple H is texting about the Hall of Fame. Ibsen said Vince McMahon is texting you that he wants you to train the wrestlers.
Yeah, well, no, but this guy's a very influential fella. I'll tell you right now.
Here's
Talk
something
to
influential. Mark says, I am Fart Man. Embrace my power. Wow.
Mark. I will
Mark.
embrace your power any day. I am afraid of the fart man. I've been around many
Dave
fart
says,
men in my time, kind of like Dr. X's. Yeah.
Dave says, "Can you post the PayPal and I'll send the payment? Would love a signed book just for Dave right now. I'll do this later too, but just to
Hey,
Dave right
I
now. Look
tell
at
you
that.
what, if you send me an email, this is the best way to do it because I can send you all the information. An email at jpwrestlingacademy.com and just tell me you want the autograph book, and I send out the way to do it.
Also, right there, Dr. Tom Prichard
Oh,
at
yes. There
AOL.com.
you
There you
go.
go. Yep.
Good deal.
Look at that. I'll post that again later as well. But we can still have a couple questions
And
here.
just make sure you put that who you want it to sign to because there's a note you can make on PayPal and everything else. So
Jason saying, I heard going back to the Smoking Skull belt. I heard that there were two Smoking Skull belts. One was nickel, a silver look, and the other was gold, which was the one that ended up making it for TV. I didn't know that about the silver one. I don't think the silver one would look as good. The gold
I
one is awesome. Yeah.
I don't know either, but I don't recall that quite honestly. But maybe Steve liked silver better than gold.
Or gold better than silver.
Either way.
Ibsen saying Jerry Briscoe will be with me and John this Saturday afternoon.
Oh well,
A's
please.
Wrestling Con. Yeah, look at that.
Oh, okay. Well then, Ibsen, please tell Jerry I said hello. And last time I saw Jerry was in Connecticut for a big birthday party.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Barbara wants to know Steve went through many different gimmicks, several gimmicks before he hit with Stone Cold. How many gimmicks does a wrestler get?
As many as it takes. I mean, my gosh. I'm trying to think of oh the God. I just went blank. I'm thinking of the guy who used to put newspaper around his chairs. Frank Hickey, Spaceman Frank Hickey, had all kinds of gimmicks, and one of them was this. He was a space alien. He wore a mask and all this stuff. Just a complete gimmick, and went through various gimmicks throughout his career. I don't know how many, but at least 10 to 15. And there was a guy who would. Um, if one gimmick didn't get over in territory, he'd go and try something else, and maybe something would hit here, something would hit there. But a lot of guys would just try things and see if they'd work. So I don't think there's any limit or how many times you can do something. Just if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, try something else.
Shaving his head and going with the Bruce Willis Pulp Fiction look was a much better gimmick. That's from Tails. From the Narc side, I agree with
No,
Stone Cold, definitely shaving the head. And then
yeah.
Rio said, when Stunning Steve Austin was in WCW as a television champion, I thought this guy belongs in WWE. I think a lot of people thought that. I know Bret Hart thought that.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people when Steve was in Tennessee knew he was going to be a top guy. He just needed to get some seasoning and a little experience under him, and that's what he did. And when it was time, it was time. And as we saw, he first came in with a manager, and he had already been cutting great promos in ECW. Been doing a hell of a job for Paul Lee. So yeah, it's just when it's time, it's time. And I think a lot of people felt the same way.
John wants to know what's the best and what's the worst arena you've worked at?
You know, to me, what constitutes a best arena is that ambiance, that feel of when I walked into the Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles, it had that feel of a wrestling arena. The Sam Houston Coliseum was this old building. I think the capacity was maybe 6,000, something like that, maybe more, but it had this ambiance, this feel to it. And the Dallas Sportatorium, just a big barn with no air conditioning, no heat, and but it had this look, this feel to it. On TV, it looked like this grand arena, I guess. I don't know if it looked like a huge place, but it looked like it was meant for wrestling. And they had a lot of different events there in the early days, from square dances to country and western acts. Elvis played in the Sportatorium, and those were great arenas. And I don't know that I've been in some. I guess Eugene, Oregon wasn't a great arena, because you had a small closet like area as a dressing room, on both sides of the building. And there was no room to get dressed. You had to go to the public bathrooms if you had to go to the bathroom. And, so that wasn't necessarily a favorite arena, but most of the places I've been to, they had this great feel to them, great stories that you could be if the walls could talk. I remember telling people that I met Dr. Jerry Graham my first night in the Olympic Auditorium, and that was so cool because Dr. Jerry Graham is a legend that a lot of people don't know about these days. If you don't know the history of wrestling, you don't know about Dr. Jerry Graham or Eddie Graham or how awesome they were when they went to New York, or how they are responsible for children. I think kids under 14 not being allowed to be in the garden for wrestling for so long. It was because of the riot with Dr. Jerry Graham and Eddie Graham. I think Antonino Rocca and uh, uh, Perez. I think it was Miguel Perez. I think so. You know, places like that where people like that would show up. That was always a great place for me.
Please ask Dr. Tom why they broke up the Hollywood Blondes, aka Steve Austin, Brian Pillman.
Well, I wish I knew, but I also think if it was me, the rationale behind it would because they saw the talent in both guys, and it's kind of like Brody and Hanson. They were a team in Louisiana. Bill Watts split them up because he saw here's two guys. Yeah, they're a great team, but eventually you need to split them up because they're two single wrestlers that need to be going this way. And I think that's probably what happened with Brian and Steve because they saw the talent both guys had. And there's only so much you can do with a tag team. And tag teams weren't featured uh, very much back then. Not when you had the Bulldogs or Horror Foundation in WWE. You had some good tag teams in the NWA with the Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express, and things like that. But you still, with Brian Pillman and Steve, I think the powers that be and the bookers kind of looked at it and said, "Yeah, we can do something with this guy, and we can do something with this guy, but not together anymore." They've done that. It's run its course. Let's see what they can do singles wise.
From Good Day, Brother Love showed up during the WWE HQ Money in the Bank event. Do you know
Yes,
anything about this?
wasn't he? Yeah, wasn't he there? Didn't he
Like,
do a
well, he's
brother
one of
love?
the Easter eggs, if you will, one of those little
Yeah,
surprises. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
You know who? Do you remember when Asuka came through the cafeteria
Yep.
and the guy who was mopping the floor? Did you remember the guy mopping the
No, I
floor?
don't remember that. No. Mm-mm.
You don't remember the guy mopping the floor, and she said something to him in Japanese.
No, who was that guy?
Hmm.
Dr. Tom, was that you?
No, that wasn't me. That was Kane.
Whoa, I don't remember that. Wow, awesome.
That
Nice.
was that
Birthday
was
boy. Yeah,
that
nice.
was Bruce's son. Yeah.
Oh, I think you meant Glenn Jacobs. Wow, Bruce's son made a
No.
surprise appearance. Nice.
Sure.
Nice.
Yeah, I would only tell that on my podcast. Our podcast. How about that?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Is that a
That's
first ever appearance for him, or has he ever done
I I,
anything before?
I don't know if it's the first ever, but I know it's the first prominent one. And when I saw it, I popped. Thought it was great.
Does Kane want to get into wrestling or no?
No, I think he's okay. I think he's going to school. He's having a good time, and I think I mean, he likes wrestling, but I think his interests are elsewhere.
From Dan, he says, Tom, did you like working in UWF?
I don't know that I worked in UWF. If you're talking about Louisiana or when Bill Watts
Mid South,
opened,
yeah.
yeah, no. I was in Mid South, but when UWF was there, I was not. I did not work in UWF.
Barbara saying Brother Love was wearing a headset when they went backstage during the Saturday Night Main Event live on NBC. Bruce
Brother
always got
Love
a
is,
headset.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's usually wearing a headset. That's usually what he's doing. Or I don't know if he's a gorilla these days. Don't know, but he
They had a
was.
picture recently. He was at Gorilla with Triple H. Those two. They were doing candid shots behind the scenes, but they were black and white. It was pretty cool what they were
Yeah.
doing.
Well, then he probably still is. So
Scorch. One thing I will never understand was decision to make Sonny Farouk's manager. That was a bizarre gimmick for Ron Simmons, and making Sonny his manager seemed very odd to me. I agree.
oh, I agree too, and I don't know why they would do that to Ron. But I think once they found out that didn't mix and it wasn't a good synergy, wasn't a good mix, wasn't a good fit. It seemed odd to a lot of people. I think it seemed odd to Ron too. It was like, and I think the Farouk gimmick, putting Ron Simmons in that ridiculous helmet
Yeah, the
and
gladiator
gimmick,
costume.
yeah, that wasn't. I mean, the acolyte APA was Ron Simmons, and that's the way I think everybody should remember him.
Now, I got an interesting question. I recently talked to Mantar, Mike Halleck, who was your former,
No.
yes, your former tag team partner at one point in time. He was saying that you guys both used to like to drive in the car together and maybe smoke a little. Is this true, false? Is he speaking out of turn here?
Well, I don't know if it was a little. Yes, we would imbibe. Yes, I have imbibed with Bantar. Certainly
Is
did.
it, or was, I guess it was illegal for WWE guys back then? Like, would you get suspended or in trouble if you got caught or no?
Yeah. Yeah. You would get fined, and so you tried to do it with the so you wouldn't fail a test, and so yeah, but we weren't the only ones back then.
Because he
Yes.
was saying they tested him. They never tested you, but they tested him and he
No, they
popped.
tested me. They
Oh,
did.
they did. Okay, okay.
Oh
So
yeah,
he
I
he
got
didn't know.
no.
Okay.
I did not get any preferential treatment. Trust me, I did
Bruce did
not.
not help you out there. Wow.
No, I wouldn't ask for any preferential treatment. I took my lumps just like everybody else. So
Would Bruce ever be in the car with you and Mantar traveling?
no, no. No, you got to understand. When I was there every time, I tried to keep that separate, and I still keep it separate, uh, just because out of respect, and so I kept it separate.
Ibsen wants to know: were you there when Austin 316 was uttered for the first time? King of the Ring,
Yes, I
1996.
was. We were doing Kevin Kelly and I were doing an episode of Bite This back in the back when King of the Ring and Austin 316 emerged for the first time.
Man, what an awesome catchphrase, man! They're talking about catching fire. Holy shit! They sold like a million T-shirts. Hell, he made $1 million last year off of T-shirts.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's learning how to play off something authentic. And Jake had come back from all his trials and tribulations and uh, found the light, whatever he found. And Steve hit it, and people reacted. That was when it was cool to be the heel. It was cool to hear a guy like that say it. You thump your Bible, you read your Psalms 316. Well, Austin 316 says, "I just whooped your ass," and people said, "Yeah." And all you had to do was put that on a shirt, and if you didn't know what it meant, they told you if you asked them. Whoever was wearing that shirt, yeah, it means Austin just whooped your ass.
You gotta love it. Jason wants to know. I like how Dr. Tom's only objection is smoking in the car. That was it wasn't a little bit of smoke. Yes, I
Yeah,
agree.
because Mantar said we smoked a little. I don't know that I've ever done anything. I don't know anything at halfway. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. So
I love that he's not speaking out of turn. I love that that he
Yeah.
said it. I was like, oh man, I don't know. Should I bring it up? Should I bring it up? But
Well,
it's
I mean,
a good thing I brought it
it's
up.
not
Yeah.
it's not a secret. And if you look
Yep.
around today, I mean, Ric Flair didn't smoke back in the day,
Hmm.
but my God, he's in the cannabis business now, and he's okay with it. I mean, it's a different world, different cultures. It's accepted a lot better than it was, back in the '60s, '70s, and sometimes in the '80s. I mean, it was a little more accepted in the '80s.
Barbara's
A lot better than getting drunk and
yes,
and taking
yes,
pills.
yes. I agree.
Yeah.
Barbara's saying just don't make Iron Sheik the designated driver.
Never. The Iron Shaker baby, he sit the back seat. Yeah. Take his medicine.
She also threw in what was that goofy Doc Hendricks gimmick? What was that Michael Hayes was doing? What's up with that?
Whew, that's Michael. He needed a new name, and I think he got Doc from Dockin and Hendricks from Big Jimmy. So, that was my understanding. I'll be Doc like Dockin, and then I'll be Hendricks, like Jimmy. Doc Hendricks. That works. So, work for him.
Terrible, terrible name. Great, great man and a great legend, but terrible name.
Oh, of
Terrible.
course he is. I'm glad you said that. I hope Michael sees this, that you said he
Yeah.
was a great man and a great legend.
Yes, one of the best.
Sure.
And hell, he was just at the draft. He was just making some draft picks.
I heard he and Van Dam did the draft, right?
Yep, yep. RVD did SmackDown and Raw, so he did too. Not that it's
Awesome.
not that I'm saying not that the draft's not legitimate, but it's just not as legitimate as the NFL draft.
Well, what? Whoa, 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 whoa.
What?
Wait just a minute. Are you trying to tell me the NFL draft is more legitimate than WWE?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, for
just check.
sure, for sure.
Just want to make sure.
Now, Dr. Tom, let's talk about your book. I'll put it up again for David. A pro wrestling curriculum, advice, suggestions, and stories to help the aspiring pro get to the next level.
And let me just reiterate, this is a book with a curriculum. It's not necessarily a book, but it does have some suggestions, some stories. If you want to read it, just get an idea what it's like to go through training for 1 year. And you can get that at jpwrestlingacademy.com. Just click on the training tab at the top. It'll come right up on the page. And you can order it there, or you can send it, as you see at the bottom of the page, an autographed copy for $25 at Dr. Tom Prichard at AOL.com. That's my PayPal account. And once again, jpwrestlingacademy.com. Check it out. Hit the page for training. Hit the tab, the training tab. I'll get it right one day.
Nice. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. Check the website, tmptempire.com. You can follow Dr. Tom on Twitter at Dr. Tom Prichard. Also go to Pro Wrestling Tees, prowrestlingtees.com. Visit the JPWA store or the Dr. Tom store. Dr. Tom, what else you got going on?
Man, we're about into our 6th week. This is the 5th week of JPWA training, and we're going to be in our 6th week, which is halfway through. And it's looking good. Everybody's doing great. JPWA is moving right along. We got our summer class coming up, and it's going to be very interesting. We have some guys coming from France, from the UK. Yeah.
Oh.
So it's going to be a good class next time.
Wow, awesome. Dave's throwing this in here. When I was a kid, I was at a signing with Owen Hart and Doc was trying to pick up my mom. And Owen put the European title on me while Doc chatted up my mom. LOL. Is this true?
I don't recall anything like that. But I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm not saying it didn't happen, Dave. And if you remember it that way, then I'm sure it did.
He's right. It happened.
Yeah, I meant no disrespect. I'm sure she was a beautiful woman, and my weakness back then was weaker than it is now. But anyway, no, I honest to God, I don't recall that. So.
Thank you, Jason. He says, thank you to Dr. Tom and me, Mr. John. Fun as always. Barbara says, thank you. And by the way, she wants to put you in the Hall of Fame 2024.
Well,
interesting.
Yeah, interesting, but don't hold your breath, Barbara.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you right back here next time for a little Take It to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. We'll see you next week, folks.